Everybody, welcome back to Leosophy. I got 3 more questions. I'm going to jump right in. Question number 1, coffee or tea, which is healthier? Well, there's no hard answer on that one. Tea has a lot of benefits, and coffee has a lot of benefits. They both are loaded with antioxidants. They both have caffeine, which is good and bad depending on how much you consume. But the real thing to take home is that they have very different compounds, and how they affect people positively are different. For example, green tea is much better at slowing down cellular aging process. In other words, the senescence of cells, and has slightly better cancer-fighting properties. However, coffee is actually really great for liver function and liver regeneration. So, in my opinion, you should, if you like both, alternate, and if you like one, stick with the one you like. It's not the end of the world. You're not going to add years to your life or shave years off your life by having or foregoing one over the other. Let's see, next question. Why do people have nightmares? That's a really fun and interesting question. I mean, I previously mentioned that we don't know why we dream. We don't actually know. And the only difference between a nightmare and a dream is that a nightmare is an unpleasant experience. And generally speaking, we can draw from experience that nightmares are usually things that our subconscious is trying to deal with, trying to work through. And what ends up happening is we remember it. We remember the weird amalgam of negative things that we've experienced over the course of the day, week, month, whatever. And as such, it translates to an extremely unpleasant experience. We don't know why we have dreams, period, but nightmares definitely seem to be some sort of coping mechanism to deal with things that we don't directly consider, that we don't directly face and contemplate. Instead of the big challenges that really require a lot of brain power, how people are going to overcome a big obstacle that day or week or month. Instead, these are the little things where, you're a little creeped out by somebody that you thought was watching you, and you put it away from your mind, and then you have a dream about it. And because that dream is negative, we call it a nightmare. But that's really the deal. It's just a series of subconscious bubbles that, when they translate to an overall negative experience that we remember, which thankfully we don't remember most nightmares because they would be relatively traumatic. That's sort of the whole point, is dealing with things so they don't become traumatic. But that's really what's going on there. Hope that answers it. That was a good one. Let's see, next question. Why were the samurai the only culture that put suicide on a pedestal as an honorable practice? Well, short answer, they weren't. The Celts would actually do this. It's actually where the city York got its name, Boricum. The Celts actually took yew trees. I think it was the root specifically, and they would brew a tisane out of it, and they would commit ritual suicide. So they did that. In China, it was very commonplace. In fact, you might even argue that Japanese culture actually got the idea of seppuku, aka harikiri, which they are slightly different, but I'm not going to get into that, from Chinese ritual suicide, which was extremely common. So that kind of goes hand in hand with what I was talking about weeks ago about mimetic disease. And I'm not saying that these behaviors are necessarily negative or bad for a culture. I'm just saying that geography and genetics, overall, they lend themselves to cultural ideas that are they just echo through generations and get stronger or weaker, and ultimately become customs. And seppuku in Japan is very famous, whereas Celtic ritual suicide is not, and Chinese ritual suicide is substantially less talked about now. But they are definitely present, and they're not the only cultures. In fact, skin in the game, it always makes me recount a story where I can't remember if they were Greek or Roman, but they told a lower person, a messenger, was telling a general that an invading force was coming, and he didn't believe them. So in order to prove that he was serious, this messenger leapt on his own sword, killed himself right in front of him, saved that battalion, and that was an important aspect of Greco-Roman culture too. So, long story short, it's a very common thing, and it ties in some respects with both an honor culture and altruism, the idea of sacrifice for the good of a group. Anyway, that's all I got. Like, share, subscribe, keep asking questions. Bye.